Hey Jake, I've been working on simplifying my finances, and I've figured out my numbers and even defined my priorities. But now I'm stuck on the next step. Cut out the noise. What does that even mean?
Oh, that's a big one, Mia. Cutting out the noise means eliminating all the unnecessary expenses and distractions in your financial life, so you can focus on what really matters to you. It's about decluttering your spending, kind of like Marie Kondo into your finances.
Okay, but what counts as noise? I feel like everything I spend money on has some purpose, even if it's just for convenience.
That's totally normal, but noise is anything that doesn't align with your values or goals. For example, those subscriptions you forgot about, impulse buys you don't use, or even habits like eating out more often than you planned. The first step is to identify those.
Subscriptions. Oh my gosh, I have so many. I think I'm still paying for a fitness app I haven't opened in months. How do I figure out what I'm wasting money on?
Start by reviewing your last few bank and credit card statements. Look for recurring charges, like streaming services or memberships, and ask yourself, do I use this? Does it add value to my life? Can I live without it? If the answer is no, it's time to cancel. You'd be surprised how much you can save just by cutting a few of these.
That's a great tip. I bet I'll find at least a couple of things I forgot about. But what about impulse spending? That's my weak spot. Amazon is way too tempting.
Ah, the Amazon trap. Cutting out impulse buys is all about creating a buffer between the urge to buy and the actual purchase. Try the 24-hour rule. If you see something you want, wait a full day before buying it. Most of the time, you'll realize you don't actually need it.
I like that idea. I'm always adding things to my cart just because they're on sale, but I usually forget about them after a few days anyway.
Exactly. Another trick is to unsubscribe from marketing emails and turn off notifications for shopping apps. Brands know how to trigger that by now, feeling with flash sales and discounts. If you don't see the ads, you're less likely to fall for them.
That makes so much sense. But what about cutting back on things I actually enjoy, like eating out? It's one of my favorite ways to unwind, but I know it's a big expense.
Good question. Cutting out the noise doesn't mean cutting out the things that bring you joy. It's about being intentional. If eating out is something you truly value, keep it in your budget, but maybe set a limit. Like, instead of going out 3 times a week, make it once a week and really enjoy it. The key is balance.
That's a relief. I thought I'd have to give up everything fun to simplify my finances. What about things like shopping for clothes or tech gadgets? I feel like I'm always upgrading something.
That's another area where you can be intentional. Ask yourself, do I actually need this, or is it just a want? Will this add long-term value, or is it just a quick dopamine hit? You don't have to stop shopping completely, but when you do buy, focus on quality over quantity and avoid buying just to keep up with trends.
That's smart. I think I've been buying more for the excitement than because I really need anything. What else can I do to cut out the noise?
Another big one is simplifying your financial accounts. If you have multiple bank accounts, credit cards, or investment platforms, consolidate them where it makes sense. The fewer accounts you have to manage, the easier it is to stay on top of things.
That sounds like a great idea. I definitely have too many accounts. I lose track of which one I'm using sometimes. Anything else?
Yeah, focus on automating your finances. Set up automatic payments for bills and transfers to savings. That way, you're not stressing about deadlines or forgetting to save. Automation helps cut out the mental noise too.
I love that. Cutting out the noise sounds so freeing. I think I'll start with the subscriptions and impulse buys, then tackle the accounts and automation. Thanks, Jake. This has been so helpful.
You're welcome, Mia. Trust me, once you start cutting the financial noise, you'll feel so much more in control. And the best part, you'll finally have space both financially and mentally for the things that really matter.
Hey Jack, I've been working on simplifying my finances, figuring out my numbers, defining my priorities, and even cutting out unnecessary expenses. But now I'm hearing about building healthy money habits. What does that even mean? Isn't it just sticking to a budget?
Not exactly, Emma. Building healthy money habits is more about creating systems and routines that make managing your money easier and less stressful over time. It's not just about a budget, it's about setting yourself up for long-term success.
Okay, that sounds important, but where do I even start? My finances feel like one big messy pile right now.
I hear you. A good place to start is with automation. Automating your savings, bill payments, and even investments can make a huge difference. When things happen automatically, you're less likely to forget or make impulse decisions with your money.
Automation sounds great, but how do I do it? Like, what should I automate first?
Start with your savings. Set up an automatic transfer from your checking account to your savings account every month or even every paycheck. It doesn't have to be a huge amount. Even $50 a month adds up over time. The idea is to pay yourself first before you even think about spending.
I like that. I've been meaning to save more, but I always end up spending what's left over. This way, I won't even see the money.
Exactly. And once you get comfortable with that, you can automate other things too, like paying bills or contributing to retirement accounts. It takes the stress out of remembering deadlines and makes sure you're consistent.
Okay, that sounds doable. What other healthy money habits should I focus on?
Another big one is tracking your spending. I know it sounds boring, but it's so important to know where your money is going. You can use apps like Mint or YNAB, or even just a spreadsheet. It doesn't have to be complicated, just enough to keep you aware of your spending patterns.
I've tried that before, and it feels like such a chore. Do I really have to track every penny?
Not every penny, unless you want to. Start by looking at broad categories like groceries, dining out, and entertainment. The goal isn't to micromanage your spending but to notice trends. For example, if you're spending $200 a month on coffee and it doesn't align with your goals, that's a place to make changes.
Okay, that makes sense. I do tend to overspend in certain areas without realizing it. What else can I do to build better habits? Okay, that makes sense. I do tend to overspend in certain areas without realizing it. What else can I do to build better habits?
Create a fun fund. Seriously, it's a game changer. Set aside a small amount each month for guilt-free spending on things you love, like going out with friends or treating yourself to something nice. It keeps you from feeling deprived while still staying on track with your bigger goals.
I love that idea. I always feel guilty when I spend money on myself, but having a dedicated fund would make it feel more intentional.
Exactly. It's all about balance. And speaking of balance, building an emergency fund is another key habit. Start with a small goal, like saving $500, and work your way up to 3 to 6 months of essential expenses. It's a safety net that gives you peace of mind.
An emergency fund sounds smart, especially since I always panic when unexpected expenses come up. Anything else I should focus on?
One more thing: practice mindful spending. Before making a purchase, ask yourself, do I really need this? Does this align with my values or goals? Could I wait 24 hours before buying it? It helps you avoid impulse buys and keeps your spending intentional.
That's a great tip. I tend to buy things on a whim, and then later I'm like, why did I get this? Mindful spending could definitely save me some regret and money.
Exactly. And remember, building healthy money habits isn't about being perfect. It's about consistency. Even small changes, like automating savings or tracking one category of spending, can make a huge difference over time.
Thanks, Jack. I feel like I have a solid plan now. I'll start with automating my savings and tracking my spending, and maybe set up that fun fund too. Baby steps, right?
Absolutely. The key is to start small and stay consistent. You've got this, Emma. Before you know it, those habits will feel like second nature.
Thanks for the pep talk. Let's check back in a month and see how we're both doing with our money habits.
Deal. Accountability partners for the win.
Hey Taylor, I've been making some changes to how I handle my money, cutting out unnecessary expenses, saving more, but sometimes I wonder if it's really worth it. Like, why am I doing all this? What's the bigger picture?
Great question, Alex. I've been on the same journey. And honestly, the bigger picture is what keeps me going. It's all about reducing stress and creating more freedom in your life. Isn't that why we all want to get our finances in order?
Freedom, huh? That sounds nice, but I feel like financial freedom is such a far-off goal. Right now, I'm just trying to make it to the end of the month without panicking about bills.
I hear you. That was me a year ago. But here's the thing, every little step you take now is building toward that freedom. Think about it. When you're not drowning in bills or debt, you have more options. You can save for things that matter. Say yes to opportunities and stop stressing about every little financial hiccup.
Yeah, the stress is real. I feel like I'm always one unexpected expense away from disaster. I guess having an emergency fund would help with that, huh?
Exactly, an emergency fund is a game changer. Even just $500 can make a huge difference. It's like a safety net when something unexpected happens. You don't have to panic or go into debt. And that peace of mind, that's freedom in itself.
Okay, that makes sense. But freedom sounds like more than just having an emergency fund. What does it actually look like in day-to-day life?
Good question. Financial freedom is about choices. It means you're not stuck in a job you hate because you're living paycheck to paycheck. It means you can take time off to travel, start a side hustle, or just spend more time with family. It's about living life on your terms, not letting money control you.
That sounds amazing. But what about the stress part? Even when I'm saving, I still worry I'm not doing enough or making the right decisions.
That's totally normal. But reducing financial stress isn't about being perfect, it's about creating systems that simplify things. Like automating your savings and bills so you don't have to think about them. Or cutting out unnecessary expenses so you're not constantly wondering where your money is going.
Automation sounds like it would take a lot off my plate. I've also been working on tracking my spending to see where I can cut back. Do you think that's enough to start feeling less stressed?
Definitely. Tracking your spending is huge because it gives you clarity. Once you know where your money is going, you can make better decisions. And when you're intentional with your spending, you stop feeling like your money is slipping through your fingers. That's a big stress reducer.
Okay, so the idea is to focus on the small steps now to eventually get to the bigger goal of freedom?
Exactly. It's like building a house you lay one brick at a time. Every dollar you save, every expense you cut, every good habit you build, it's all getting you closer to a life with less stress and more freedom. And honestly, even the process itself feels freeing because you're taking control.
That's a good way to look at it. I think I've been so focused on what I'm giving up that I've been forgetting what I'm gaining.
Right. And remember, financial minimalism isn't about deprivation. It's about creating space for what really matters. When you cut out the noise and get your money under control, you can spend on the things you love without guilt or worry.
That's such a good point. I guess for me, freedom would look like being able to take a vacation without feeling guilty or having to put it all on a credit card.
Exactly, and you can get there by starting small. Build your emergency fund, cut back on things that don't align with your goals, and automate your savings. Over time, you'll see the stress go down and the freedom increase.
Thanks, Taylor. I think I needed this reminder. I'm going to keep working on those small steps and focus on the bigger picture. Less stress, more freedom. It sounds like the dream.
It really is, Alex, and you're already on the right track. Just keep going, and I promise, you'll start feeling the difference sooner than you think.
Let's take Sarah. She makes $3,500 a month but always feels broke. After adopting financial minimalism, here's what changes. She reviews her subscriptions and cancels $1 a month worth of unused services. She downsizes her apartment, saving $4 a month in rent. She learns to cook at home, reducing her eating out budget by $2 a month. She sets up automatic savings of $5 a month, creating a safety net for emergencies. By simplifying, Sarah now has more control over her money, less stress, and is on her way to achieving her goals.
Financial minimalism isn't about living with nothing, it's about living with enough. It's about cutting out the noise and focusing your money and energy on what makes you happy. Whether you're drowning in debt, looking for a simpler life, or just want to save for the future, financial minimalism can be the first step toward a better financial future. Final thoughts. Awareness is the first step. Understanding why we spend so much is the first step toward making better choices. By recognizing these triggers, social media, emotional spending, FOMO, and more, you can start to take control of your finances and align your spending with your values. Remember, you don't have to say yes to every purchase or every trend. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is pause and ask yourself, is this really worth it?